Targeted mass violence to me is an individual, or it could be several, due to a grievance, perceived or real, has decided that violence is their only option to justify or to right their wrong. And they make a plan and go out and target a specific group of people, whether it's somebody they know or just a group of people they perceive, and they make plans to carry out that act of violence.
There are some driving factors, or high risk factors for this, for individuals that may be going down the path to violence. Some of those may be access to weapons, a perceived grievance, ideology, or some other type of mental health crisis going on in their lives.
With LAPD, we've been working on a model for looking at folks who are on the path to violent extremism.
Decided on the PATH name because it more accurately depicts what it is, providing alternatives to hinder extremism. It's alternatives opposed to, putting them in jail or whatever else you might do with them they didn't know. And now we're providing an alternative. There's actually, a violence. People who were maybe involved in gang violence or violence against their parents or teachers, that there's programs for those people to deal with that type of violence. We're not trying to de-radicalize anybody, but we're trying to find other ways to deal with that.
It's a strategy that operates on a continuum that moves from working within the social domain in the early prevention and working through a public health model, increasing social protective factors, sort of moving down that spectrum towards working with individuals who may be on a path toward violence but haven't committed crime. But yet these are individuals who are in need of prevention services.
The success of PATH really depends on the early intervention on an individual that may be potential subject for violence.
And the way to prevent violence is being proactive. When you see some of the things, when you hear some of the things, those are the times to intervene.
And as we move down that spectrum, then our strategy moves closer towards a law enforcement space where it becomes essential to have that law enforcement partnership and the trust between community and law enforcement in order for us to effectively provide preventative services.
When we were thinking about PATH, we're thinking about ways that people of concern can sort of rise to the awareness of people who can intervene. So people in the community may have concerns about someone, people in schools may have concerns about someone, people in churches, in social groups. PATH gives the community a place for them to be able to go to.
So community policing helps us open the pipeline. In all of the cases where you see targeted mass violence, there's usually one commonality, and that's leakage. There's usually somebody who says something to someone. If there is trust, which community policing builds, then somebody's more likely to say something to an officer, to somebody, to get that information to the right hands. If we don't discover knowable information, bad things happen. When we discover that knowable information and act on it, we can intervene.
Once our mental evaluation units are called out to assist, that it is actually assisting the community and having that trust with the public, that they feel safe to call the police to help their family member, to help their friend, and not necessarily that we're showing up there to put someone in jail.
The majority of people with mental illness are not violent. They're living normal lives. They're people that you and I work with. They're successfully medicated, they're successfully getting therapy. People with mental illness are not violent. However, when you look at a lot of these mass shootings, untreated mental illness was a big piece of it. Whether it's delusion, whether it's perceived grievance, that piece can be treated.
It starts with training the police officers to identify mental health indicators, to be able to identify any potential threat. Then it's the officers knowing when to call our mental health units to come out to do an assessment. At that time, they will determine one of several things. One, is this person an immediate danger to themselves or others? Two, is the individual unable to care for themselves or 3, is the individual have propensity for violence in the future.
Our CAMP teams, which is the case assessment management program, is where PATH cases get diverted to. And so those detectives, a detective with a mental health nurse or a mental health psychologist can actually, again, do that real in-depth work day after day to try and make sure that person is linked.
CAMP will get kids who have threatened violence. And if it has a huge law enforcement nexus, LAPD CAMP takes it. If it doesn't have a law enforcement nexus so much, but the kids are threatening to do targeted violence, then the START program with the Department of Mental Health takes it. You know, LAPD is a perfect example of collaboration and the way agencies can work together.
If our units and our clinicians from the Department of Mental Health get involved, 60% of the time we never see them again. They're not a repeat customer, which is unusual. And so I think that, to me, is one of the measures of our success.
With kids who are on this pathway to violence, if we can stop that pathway, if we can figure out what's going on with them, if we can treat it, the thing to have kids not do school shootings is to have them feel included and have them be successful.